I look forward to our conversation about our commitment to impartiality, to transparency, and to accountability. If it's okay with all of you, I'd like to read you something I personally wrote as I thought about these issues. And I'm also going to tweet it out right now. I want to start by making something very clear. We don't consider political viewpoints, perspectives, or party affiliation in any of our policies or enforcement decisions. Period. Impartiality is our guiding principle.
Jack Dorsey, former head of Twitter 2 years ago, testifying before Congress. No, Twitter, we don't do that. We don't shadow ban. We don't edit accounts. We don't try to filter accounts so that they don't perform it. We don't do any of that at all. A couple of journalists, including Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi, say, that's not true. They've been doing this long investigation, and apparently these bombshells keep coming out. Now, and I'll start here. Twitter has the right to censor speech. They are not a government entity. They have that right to do that. Am I right, Counsel?
Yes.
Yes, they can do that completely within their right. That is not censorship. The censorship ultimately happens when the government says you can't say this. But what Twitter is doing is then they're lying and then not telling. Apparently, if you're to believe these reports, that they apparently didn't let people know. Hey, Andy, that hot take you had on Contreras signing with the Cardinals, we're blocking it. That's the kind of stuff they would do, allegedly.
Well, and I think the more concerning thing is, and I think initially the Democrats were saying, oh, the communications with Twitter were just between the Biden campaign and Twitter. And so the Biden campaign technically isn't a government entity. And, you know, the most recent drop is showing more interaction between actual government entities, talking about meetings, you know, with actual government entities. And that's what's concerning, because although Twitter is a private entity, we also don't want to see the government using a private entity to then censor speech, which it's not allowed to do. So I think that's where, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And I think, Elon has all the receipts. And so if Jack Dorsey's going to get on and say stuff like that, Elon is airing all of his dirty laundry now. I think people need to take a hard look at it.
It's more fun to air other people's dirty laundry, isn't it?
It is.
Instead of your
Elon's
own.
got some dirty laundry, but it's been aired before, a lot of it.
So you've heard the phrase shadow banning. It's where in effect, you say, we're not going to give that tweet, for example, whatever. We're not going to give it the exposure. It's not going to get promoted. Well, we didn't shadow ban. We did visibility filtering. So they've evolved the term on it. It's not shadow banning, it's visibility filtering.
Yeah, it all has to do with the algorithm, right? And what gets higher on the algorithm and what doesn't. And the algorithm's always been kind of a black box. You don't really know why sometimes things go viral or in the opposite, don't go. And we're starting, from these emails, I think we're starting to see a little bit of the internal processes. But, on the upside, what makes something go viral? I don't know.
And I've been wondering about this because I don't have a lot of followers on Twitter. So I'm wondering.
Yeah. Maybe it's because you can't remember your username.
Are you shadow banned or does no one like you? Are you just uncool?
A and B. No blue check mark. At Rathert Branden is where you can find me on Twitter. Stephanie Bell's at Stephanie S. Bell. Hannah is at producer_Hannah. Marsh is at KWOS. And Andy Humphrey, who's in for Brian Houseworth again.
Hey there.
How can we find you on Twitter?
At Andy R. Humphrey.
Hey, Andy, you actually do use Twitter a lot.
I do, yeah.
Have you noticed any differences since Elon bought Twitter?
Yeah, I get got a lot by fake accounts. Yeah, okay. Because people.
So you're falling for them?
Sometimes, but I mean, people will buy up the blue check mark now because anybody can get it, and they'll pretend to be a prominent, baseball reporter saying, "Hey, Aaron Judge is signing with the Cardinals," and then people will fall for it.
Which kind of happened almost, incidentally.
I mean, almost. Yeah. I don't know. But,
interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm watching over the TV on the week, and I think this is a big deal. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of folks talking about every single news outlet talking about Twitter, especially since Elon Musk came in and, as many would say, saved the day with allowing people to say what they want on the venue. So I'm flipping around on the TV yesterday, trying to catch what people are saying. Nothing there. Change channels. Nothing.
You should get a new TV.
They weren't covering it. Nobody's covering it. And I hate to be that guy on a conservative talk radio station. Why is nobody talking about it? I can't stand that phrase, by the way, because when people say it, well, you're talking about it, right? Or they're not talking about it because maybe it's not as big of a deal as you think it is. But nobody's talking about it.
We are.
We are. And the reason why I think is obvious because and we're starting to see this, for example, with COVID. You look at test scores, even in some of our local school districts. A couple years ago, there were people saying, you yank kids out of school and it's really going to mess with their test scores. Well, the kids are going to die if you said, no, they're not. No, they're not. It's simply not true.
Can we talk about everyone's immune systems since COVID and how... Right.
Yeah, I leave for just a few days and you guys are falling apart. Now I'm afraid you're going to give it to me.
It was rough. It was a rough week last week.
And we're off to a fine start already. And It's
Yeah.
only 6:14 in the morning, but they're doing it because the national news outlets aren't talking about it because it is being proven now what people have said all along. Twitter has a political favoritism, and they have that right to do it. But what they did when they were banning some people and not banning others, or messing with the algorithms, that is simply wrong, and they know they're wrong. And what do they do when they're wrong? Well, you just ignore it. If I don't look under the bed, the boogeyman ain't there, right? It's a little kid when you just don't look under the bed. It's not there. That's what they're doing. They're 4 and 5-year-old kids who are afraid of the boogeyman. They won't look up under it and at least have some kind of, hey, okay, let's look at this. Let's just not stand pat with what our position has been over the years. Twitter doesn't do this. They're not that. Let's listen with an open and critical mind and let's think about what is happening there. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell back in the house.
Good morning.
Thank God.
Oh, don't laugh too hard.
There's John Marsh. How you doing today, man? There's a lot to be said for that. And we apologize. Listen, we started getting hate mail Friday.
We did.
Man, I'm sorry. We're gargling with motor oil and hydroxychloroquine and doing inhalants and all kinds of stuff. And this is what it is. There's Mr. Andy Humphrey.
Hey there.
Good to see you. That's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. If there is something that we can do for you, 874-9390, 874-9390. By the way, below to supporters of, I think it was called, was it employee housing, John? It wasn't called
Workforce
housing. Workforce Development Housing in Jefferson City. Have never met City Councilman Jack Deacon from Jefferson City. I've never met him in person, but when I do, I'd like to shake his hand and say thank you for being the guy who called us out and saying this is not employee development housing. This is affordable housing. Supporters getting some bad news on Friday. Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin. She's here at 6:35. Potentially talk about what that next step is going to be here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. More folks continue to react over the weekend regarding Brittany Griner, and I think some of the big things, if you checked out of the news over the weekend, apparently there have been several folks that even within the Trump administration have said, hey, Trump had an opportunity to perhaps bring Paul Whelan home. It didn't happen. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but obviously the knock is we have this guy, a retired Marine, who has been in a Russian prison for several years, bogus trial, bogus charges, and all that stuff. And we get Brittany Griner home, the WNBA player. Now the administration is saying, listen, Paul Whelan for them wasn't even on the table. You'd like to say BS, but maybe there's some truth to that. So we've heard reaction from athletes. One Dallas Cowboys player kind of got knocked on Twitter because he's like saying what we had said. What the hell did you bring this one home? We want to bring all of our Americans home, Brittany Griner included. But what about this guy, Marine, 4 years there? And he got some flack on Twitter. Saw on the national news outlets over the weekend. If you were upset by Brittany Griner being freed, then you're racist and you're, is it transphobic? If you're afraid of gay people or something, I don't know what the exact phrase is. Homophobic. That's why you didn't like the fact she came home.
And I'm mad that I didn't see Hannah's face because Hannah doesn't get too fired up. But you start talking Brittany Griner. I when that story came out, I was like, oh, I wish I was there to see the look on Hannah's face when she heard the news.
I was ticked off.
Well, here's what did it for me. So this is developing during the show, and we're in the middle of the thing, and the interns and everybody. Well, everybody. There was very few people here last week, but everybody's running around, and Hannah says, "Hey, look," and we get this notification that Brittany Griner had been freed, and I'm watching Hannah, and she visibly, as a matter of fact, if you were watching on our YouTube channel at Wake Up Mid Missouri, she visibly said, "What the?" And you could see it.
Whoa, careful.
Plain as day. And that's what did it for me. It's like, yeah, that's the reaction of a 22-year-old conservative college grad who's going, what the hell is this? Her face reaction, reaction on her face said it all. So we've gotten reaction from everybody, politicians, talking heads, sports world. We had Boomer Esiason even saying, Boomer Esiason, I think he's in the Hall of Fame quarterback now, does stuff, I think, for Fox Sports. He even said this is crazy. We had somebody say, this is not a swap. This is a loss. So how does Russia react to Brittany Griner coming home? Here's how Russian state television handled it. And this plays right into our point. Stephanie, what have we been talking about since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021?
We're not looking great on the worldwide stage, that's
Nope.
for sure.
Every time Joe gets up somewhere with his ice cream cone talking about world policy, you know, it's scary. It's like watching your kid get up to bat in Little League Baseball for the very first time. Russian TV says Whelan was a spy and he is a hero to Americans. And he says 3 things went against Whelan. His first problem, this is Russian state television. His first problem, he is white. His second problem, he's a man. His third problem, he's a heterosexual, white cisgender dude. You know? And for the folks that were critical of this move to bring Brittany Griner home, I think a lot of folks were labeling us. Well, it's just because she's black and she's a lesbian. No, it's not. It's because of Paul Whelan. That's why we're not upset that Brittany was coming home. We're just saying, hey, what about this guy who's been there for 4 years?
Or what about the international arms dealer that you sent back to Russia? What about that guy?
Oh, my God. You got to hear this. This is Congresswoman Shirley Jackson Lee, MSNBC, because that was the big thing. This guy, Victor Boot, was called the Merchant of Death. Best we could tell, I don't know if Brittany Griner has any nicknames on the court in the WNBA. Not that we're
I can't
aware.
think of any.
This guy's nickname was the Merchant of Death. Congresswoman Shirley Jackson Lee on MSNBC over the weekend.
He was sentenced to 25 years. He served 11 to 16 years. I don't know, I can't remember the exact number. But in actuality, his weapons might have been used to kill Americans. But he has not killed Americans.
Oh, okay. Well, he didn't kill Americans. Okay, and that is a progressive Democrat Congresswoman's take on it. Well, but he didn't kill any Americans. Coming up 5 minutes from now, Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. What's underneath the circus tent this morning?
Well, young people might be quiet quitting this, and I think I'm in favor of that.
Younger people quiet quitting this new thing. That story coming up 5 minutes.
past time that Africa has permanent seats at the table in international organizations and initiatives. We need more African voices in international conversations that concern the global economy, democracy and governance, climate change, health, and security.
John Kirby, National Security Council, talking about kind of giving a little bit of a preview is Joe Biden's going to be meeting with nations from Africa. That's getting us into today's daily D.C. rundown on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
There are 49 invited heads of states and leaders headed to Washington, D.C. The meetings begin on Tuesday, are expected to, the summit lasts 3 days. The first gathering of this kind was held 8 years ago by President Barack Obama. And this is one of the first, or I think the largest summit that Biden has hosted since the coronavirus. So big deal. Biden will be, and there's actually, a lot of times they have these summits and they kind of get together and like nothing. You're just like, oh, we had a meeting. It was nice.
They eat lobster and ice cream.
Well, they are having a dinner at the White House, so we'll see what's on the menu. There's a lot planned. But the White House said that there will be major deliverables and initiatives, which is kind of code speak for there's going to be some announcements. One has already come forward. There was a major announcement that Biden is going to declare his support for adding the African Union as a permanent member of the group of 20 nations. That's the first announcement, but there are expected to be more. Of course, Biden is going to try to downplay the role that China and Russia have in Africa right now and strengthen our relationship with the leaders as they come into D.C. We've talked a lot about quiet quitting and young people, and maybe they're quiet quitting the Democrat Party. There was a study on the last election, and whereas before they'd broken 64 to 34% Democrat GOP, and that was in 18, and then 61-36 in the last in 2020. This time around, it was just 53-41. And that surprises me because I thought young people were the reason why we didn't do as well in the midterms as we were supposed to.
That's what I'm not understanding. If the Republicans did so well, or if the Democrats, I should say more accurately, did so poorly with these younger voters, where did they go?
Well, some of these people, some of it is my people's fault. So voters under 30 didn't go as heavily for Democrats, but the millennials just slightly older did exceed expectations in voting for Democrats. But I think that's really interesting. And one of the folks said, it could be high inflation, that younger people, they have lower wages, and so they could be particularly affected by inflation. But this professor said, there's no reason why Republicans can't rebound among younger people. And that's what you've been saying all along is, hey, we've got to start, they're not a lost cause. Like sometimes I feel like they are, but perhaps there's room there for us to pick those folks up. Also, we're hearing a lot about Brittany Griner and her coming back. The guy who is the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs, Roger Carstens, apparently was on the flight, and he was like, you know what? She sure talked a lot. And guess what? She was so nice. She shook everyone's hand. She got their names. She had conversations. She's been in prison. She hasn't had conversations with anyone for a really long time. Of course she wants to talk to people. Of course she wants to have face-to-face interaction. But he was chalking it up to she's just so kind and nice and pleasant.
She's grateful to be out of prison. Remember,
Right.
This is the same person who was not grateful to be an American.
Also, she talked 12 hours of an 18-hour flight. If that's not another reason to hate her, that's a bad play.
Affordable housing in Jefferson City. What's next after Friday's decision? That's 5 minutes from now.
is not the government's job to supply welfare housing, welfare everything. It's this, all of a sudden the state does it. The churches don't do it anymore. The privates don't do it anymore. We're going to have just nothing but a town of rental housing everywhere. If we don't come to grips with single family has to be developed. We can have programs for that. Workforce assistance. This isn't workforce housing. This is for lower income housing.
That's Jefferson City Council First Ward member Jack Deacon a couple of months ago talking about employee development housing, I think was the label. He says, "This is not what this is. This is low income housing proposal in Jefferson City." Now remember, we lost a lot of properties in Jefferson City. Gosh, it's been going on 4 years ago. 4 years when that tornado hit towards the latter part of May in 2019. Lost a lot of properties then. You've got some companies coming and saying, hey, listen, we need some help. Places like Scholastic and Unilever saying, we pay well, we think we're a good place to work, but our employees are having trouble finding affordable housing in Jefferson City. Been going on for a while. Apparently Friday, the commission, the Missouri Housing Development Commission, rejected multifamily housing projects in Jefferson City. So what is next? Let's bring in Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin. Carrie, thank you for joining us on the show. Mayor, I want to ask first, though, Jack Deacon, and I'm bringing this up because I get kind of my sense when I hang out and chat with folks in Jefferson City, that may have been one of the big problems in this not getting a whole lot of support, and that there was a disguise that this is really affordable housing, but people were putting the label employee development housing, and that's why it's failed. Do you buy into that argument at all?
Well, it's very clear because there are some guidelines that there has to be a certain minimum income level met before people can even qualify. And the income level is fairly high. There's still a substantial amount of rent being paid. So this is not some sort of free housing that people may not really understand the concept, what it really is. And so it's unfortunate. And there are, council knew as well, and the public has access to the information of all of the guidelines. So it's really a great opportunity for those that are working hard. So there has to be a job tied to it, an income level and requirements. So it's really perfect for what we need because it's not just housing and rentals, but it's nice rentals. It's got a standard that it has to uphold. So it's even better than really just having average development.
So, and I'm guessing, to me, the big question, okay, so what's next? So this is Missouri Housing Development Commission said, we're not going to support this. You've got companies, big employers locally like Scholastic and Unilever saying, well, our employees just don't know where to live. One factory or one of these companies, according to the Jefferson City News Tribune, says Scholastic has shipped jobs elsewhere because there aren't enough workers in the area. So what is the next solution, or what else can be done to make sure that, hey, if we're going to hire people, whether it's Scholastic, Unilever, or Hitachi, where are these people going to live? Any solutions?
Well, we know that this was the right time because of the tornado disaster, and these funds were tied to disasters. So we qualified just as much, if not more, than most communities that applied because of the tornado. And we also lost around 150 rental units in the tornado, and a lot of those people left Jefferson City, maybe didn't come back. The jobs that we have available, we don't have places to live. It's clear. We had the companies really pleading to council to support this project, and we simply had a letter of support. It wasn't up to us. It was up to MHDC. So now what happens is, we hope that we can still get some apartment units, but they needed these funds to really make it cash flow into a nice apartment type of multifamily development. That's the key, and the services that would be offered. So I don't know. We really don't have an answer. I think that's a good question for council, is what they want to do. There seems to be sort of frowned upon just in general having rental, and that is not the right way to go forward. The rental is extremely important. And these particular projects would have been perfect and had income levels such that some people such as new teachers, for example, we talked about during some of the discussions, starting salaries for some of our public safety individuals, new police officers, new teachers, people providing essential services to us in our community. Working families would have qualified. But the need there is great for everybody who is just starting out in their careers or working hard with a family.
So, but how, I guess, then what do? You go to these companies and say, hey, we're working on finding housing. What's the solution?
Well, we need developers interested in developing and finding the land to do it. And we have 4 on the table. We hope that they'll still proceed, but it's highly unlikely because those tax credits were necessary in order to fund. As we know, the cost of building and materials is a lot higher now than it was before. And I think that there's a lot of factors like that play into their decision of how and where and when to develop. And they needed that in order to make these projects feasible.
This is Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Missouri Housing Development Commission not supporting workforce housing in Jefferson City, and apparently they're upset about it. That's the news we got on Friday.
Well, Well, we've been talking about the need for housing for quite some time, and we've known that there's different programs that have been available. There was a very tight timeline on getting letters of support for MHDC, so that is true, but that was not necessarily under our control. So it's more of an excuse than a real issue. I think the time issue that we've heard council say that was their concern. We know that we were rejected with MHDC because of opposition, and the opposition was somewhat, in my opinion, unfounded because the benefit was really there for these projects. But MHDC, when I spoke with some of the members afterwards, said that community opposition was the reason that we did not receive it. And I will say that one of the 4 developments ranked, it's my understanding that it ranked around 3rd in the region and 2nd highest overall. So these were very high-ranked, great potential developments that would have likely received funding considering they ranked so high, but community opposition is something they take seriously, and we did not get them. But absolutely, it would have been a wonderful opportunity for our community. We need housing. Could they build other maybe smaller units? Maybe, but we know that won't be sufficient. It won't be enough. But what was really great about these projects is the stringent requirements that they had. They had to uphold very high standards. And we know that it came up that there may be some apartment units that maybe aren't the best, and we need landlords to step up. Well, that is true. And until we get places for people to move into, then that's the key to make all of the apartments elevated and better in our community. And these had very good requirements with them.
Yeah, in looking at an article where the Central Missouri Community Action was quoted, they were saying that Fulton got money, Columbia got money, and it was all due to the opposition. Can you say more about the opposition? Are these neighboring folks, like neighbors, or who are these people?
The opposition is what you played leading into this. Council members saying that this was not needed and that we don't need rental. And so just the opposition was local. Was the council members. Now, Branden asked about how do we go forward? What are the solutions? And so if we do have to look to private developers, has the city done a comprehensive review of their code to bring down the cost on private individuals to develop these properties? For instance, I know there are folks who, would rather build right outside of the city because I think the city requires fire sprinklers if you have 3 or more units, which, if you do the math, you can, as a private developer, it just doesn't make sense. You can't get enough rent to put in fire sprinklers. And so wouldn't it be, isn't that a solution? Couldn't we put together, a review board to look at city code to figure out how we can make it affordable for private people to come in and develop housing that's affordable? Right. And those are things, as we see statewide, that it's important to have these funds. That's why there were over 100 applicants for these tax credits, because it is a challenge to develop, and they need to be done in a safe manner. And the sprinkler topic is important as well. But we have had a code review committee, actually, that has been in place for quite some time and gave quite a bit of feedback, and we've made some changes. So all of those things are currently being done, and the perception about developing in Jefferson City is actually, it is very good. We talk to a lot of developers that say how easy it is to develop here, and so that's a little bit of a myth. So we want to always work with our developers, and we are business friendly, but it's hard when we have 4 developers ready to invest millions of dollars in our community, and then we basically say, we really don't want what you're doing when they are ready to invest. We need to get out of their way, allow them to invest, allow this tax credit process to work on an opportunity such as this. And then you also mentioned the opposition that was with council. That was for our letter of support, but they also received letters from others. So I want to clarify that comment that there was opposition, but while there was, I think it was somewhat misinformed. Some of the comments that we heard that came to testify at council may not have fully understood the scope of the project and the stringent requirements that went about it. And we do need to make sure that our current apartment owners, if they are not following code, that they do get up to code. But it's a challenge because often people will not want to lose where they're currently living because there is nowhere for them to go.
Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin talking about housing in Jeff City. Anything else that you would like to add that we did not ask you about, Mayor?
Well, there's been a lot of work. We have done some housing studies that show that there is a need, so we're just going to continue moving forward. But Jefferson City is a great place to live and do business, and these are great opportunities that with the disaster we absolutely need and qualify for. So just getting that shift that the people who live here are working and they need places to live, and that's part of what makes our community work every day. We rely on each other, and so finding housing is really a top priority. And how are we going to do that? So we need to come together before people say, we don't want that in our backyard, and say, we absolutely do. We need people in our community to work hard, and we need these great opportunities and places for them to live, and just how important that really is. So think about it when we're out there and working and getting our coffee, and those that are waiting on us and those that we're working with, where they're living and what their needs are, because there's hardworking people here and there's opportunities that we need to connect them with, and they're all important in our community.
Jefferson City Mayor Carrie Tergin, thank you for your time on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Thank you.
All right. In Columbia over the weekend, community panel, they talked about affordable housing, and I think one of the phrases they used was, it's a human right. Is it a human right that I have to use my taxpayer dollars to pay for your housing? And here's the thing, and I don't know, because listen, on the surface, I'm like, no, if you're homeless, there's private entities that can help. I don't think I should have to pay, and I'm firmly entrenched in that. But if we look at, and let's say these companies like Unilever and Scholastic, let's say they are saying, hey, we can't keep workers here. We're big employers in town. We bring in a lot of tax revenue here in mid-Missouri. But we don't have any houses for our employees. At what point are we supposed to say, yeah, there should be some government involvement on this? And the other thing where I start to think a little bit is when it comes to homeless families. Because homelessness, I just don't feel like I should be paying for it. Go to a church, find somebody privately that will do it. You might think it's a human right, but I don't think it's a human right that I have to pay for it. And Travis, he's got some thoughts on this coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle at 104.5 News.
tomorrow morning, I will start my first day as mayor at the city's emergency operations centers, where my first act as mayor will be to declare a state of emergency on homelessness.
New LA Mayor Carrie Tergin, she says, I'm going to declare a state of emergency. Then she was asked, okay, so what's your plan? Because there has really been no city in America that has been able to fix the issue of homelessness. Because some people think, well, it's build a shelter and they'll come warm up, and then we close at 8 o'clock and then they're gone all day and then they come back at night, and we can look to a mid-Missouri city in Columbia. That has not worked out well in downtown Columbia, of all places. So this grand plan, I'm going to fix How? And I don't know. And I've done a lot of work with homeless people over the years. I did a documentary on homelessness. They won some awards. I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying. So I have some context here. I've been in this, talking to panhandlers and then also talking to the homeless community. I don't know what the solution is. Affordable housing, employee housing, especially if you have some companies, let's say in Jefferson City, like Scholastic, like Unilever, saying, hey, we're having a hard time recruiting. We can't get people to find places to live in Jefferson City. I don't know what's on the market right now.
How do we define affordable housing? Like, what is affordable housing? I know when I lived in Kirksville, I paid $185 a month in rent. That was pretty affordable.
What year was that?
Oh, don't get me started.
$185. Hannah, you remember the lowest amount of rent you ever paid?
700.
Lowest?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've only rented 2 places, though, and it's been in the last couple of years.
Well, I'm on a rental website right now, and these properties are all available in December, and I'm seeing $525, $525.
That $525, what street is that on? Is it
$550. I don't know that I should say, but they're in some of these are.
They're on the internet, right?
And then, there's one on, it looks like East Capitol for $450.
I'd take $450 a month.
Right?
Man, in the heart of things in Jefferson City, 874-9390. Travis, welcome into the show. What's up?
Good morning. Yeah, about the whole affordable living, or how do they say it? Workforce housing?
Workforce development housing.
Right. I think that's all just a big pile of, I've worked construction for a long time now, and I rented a house or an apartment for 15 years. After that 15 years, I went to go buy my house, and I had nothing. I had no money. I had nothing. I had to take a loan out, and I bought my house. I had my house for 5 years. Now I have equity. When I leave my house, I have the money I put into my house to take with me to put towards my next one. Obviously, I have to sell my house, but I have something to look forward to. I'm not just throwing money in a fire, burning it up, and saying, hey, I'll never get that money back. When you rent, you're just paying someone else's mortgage.
Yeah.
And I think...
And so when you have 118 apartments in this one building, that is a group that owns that building, and that group that owns that building is making all the money, not the renters.
All right, Travis, got to go. I'm not trying to cut you off. We've only got 10 seconds. Coming up a little bit after 7 o'clock, Stephanie and I have come up with some things, hey, you might want to be watching for coming down the pipeline. These things are going to affect you.
You know, Jake, it probably won't surprise you when I tell you I'm not trying to be like anyone else. What I'm trying to do is be true to my values and the values of my state. So, you know, I think everyone should make their own decisions about where they fit or where they don't fit. I'm going to keep doing exactly what I do, which is just stay focused on the work, you know, and ignore all the noise.
Is she being genuine or is she full of crap? Kirsten Sinema on why she left the Democrat Party, a story we shared with you on Friday. Story that really broke Friday morning. She had written a letter to Gannett, which owns USA Today, and basically the Columbia Daily Tribune, who, by the way, Columbia Daily Tribune is getting, I shouldn't say them, but Gannett, which owns the Columbia Daily Tribune, one of our local newspapers, is getting sued over a photo. Stephanie Campbell sued Gannett Media, more than 220 of its newspapers, including the Columbia Daily Tribune, Friday in federal court. This is according to ABC 17. The lawsuit is over Gannett's use of a photo that Campbell took of Katie Sowers, the NFL's first openly gay coach. The photo was included on page 15 of the lawsuit. She claims that Gannett used it without getting a license for it first. She wants profits from the... So in other words, she took a photo, should have been credited to her, and it wasn't specifically the Columbia Daily Tribune. I'm guessing that's something that came down from the mothership. Here's a stock photo of Katie Sowers, except it wasn't a stock photo of Katie Sowers, so they're getting sued.
And well, and a lot of young people these days think like, well, it's on the internet, I can just use it, right? And I mean, and you can't. Generally, you can't.
Aww,
depending on what you're doing, but you for sure shouldn't be using it for profit. So, you know, I would. This is so interesting. I kind of want to go dig down in the lawsuit and figure out why, like what happened, how that happened, because, you know, a professional media company should know better. But I wonder, like, what protocol didn't get followed such that the photo got, you know, published without permission.
Did somebody, like it happens all the time, and somebody said, well, I'm going to do something about this, because maybe that happens a lot too. Somebody uses their photos. I don't care. Or did somebody say something? Because this is something we deal with, and Andy Humphrey hosts an afternoon show. He's in for Brian Houseworth. With what we do with me, we have to be careful about photographs that we use. What's the thought process whenever you get into, we're going to use this photo, we're not going to use this photo? From your end, how does that work?
I mean, if you're posting it on your own site and you're making your own story out of it, typically you're going to need permission to use somebody else's photo. And yeah, we make sure that we do that, and we go through all the proper channels to make sure that that happens. Social media is a little bit murkier, though, because it's out there, and if you're you can even repost it to your thing, and it's even murkier to how you can even legislate what's yours and what isn't.
Murkier is French for, I'm not real sure the answer to that one.
Or maybe I want to get sued. Yeah, no, I mean, I have a big event at the Capitol every year, and for a group that I'm a part of, the Federalist Society, and I was like, oh, it'd be nice to put a picture of the Capitol on the front of the thing. And I found a friend who I know takes photos, and I have the email that says, hey, here's the photo I would like to use. Can I use it? And I don't make money off that association or anything, but I still wanted to get permission before I went out and printed it on a bunch of stuff.
And so when you've asked permission, from what I understand, because I don't do it a whole lot, but more often, I ask for forgiveness.
Yes.
Are there a lot of times when you ask for permission to use a particular photograph, are you often told no?
I can't remember times when I was told no.
Can't remember?
I can't remember a time.
Yeah, and what's her remedy here? Like, how much is that photo worth? The one photo that was published in all the papers. I mean, like, they weren't going to buy it, right? So how much money is she wanting? That, $100? You want 200? What do you want from me?
The money, or do you just want your name? Hey, and this photograph was taken by this person. So Kirsten Sinema wrote a letter, Gannett newspaper, AZ Central in Arizona, explaining this is why. And basically, she's like, I don't want to be beholden to what this party believes in. Some folks, obvious, and we know, I can give you the reaction, and you know which side it's coming from along the political realm. But here's what I love. You get a cranky old white dude who's not happy with it. And you get him talking about what she has done. Bernie Sanders reacting.
Does she have the guts to take on powerful special interests?
No, she doesn't. She is a corporate Democrat who has, in fact, along with Senator Manchin, sabotaged enormously important legislation.
Sabotaged enormously important legislation. That's not the correct phrasing, Mr. Sanders. Save the nation from more needless spending, actually. Bernie Sanders, incidentally, calling Kyrsten Sinema a corporate Democrat. Anybody know Bernie Sanders' party affiliation? Mm-hmm. He's an independent, too. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, back from Washington, D.C. and Georgia.
Steph.
Glad you wish you were here. We could have used you last week when nobody else was here.
I'm sorry about that, friends. But I'm kind of glad I was gone because I apparently didn't catch the plague like you guys. Yeah, stay tuned. Thanks, guys.
Any highlights?
Hold your breath.
No, it was really good. So we were down in Georgia for the runoff. Obviously not the result any of us wanted, but kind of at that point we kind of knew. It was pretty quiet. So we did the same thing we do often here in Missouri, answer calls from poll watchers about election law, about, what's going on, if there's broken machines, how that's going. It was pretty quiet, which we kind of knew because a lot of people in Georgia voted ahead of time. But overall, I think it was a pretty smooth election. And so then went to D.C. and my law partner, Mark, won Republican Lawyer of the Year. Cool really cool. Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler was there. Congressman Blaine Luke DeMeyer was there. The award was presented by Ronna McDaniel.
Head of the Republican National,
Yeah. So really exciting time and lots of friends in town, and just celebrating. And then we went to the Republican National Lawyers holiday party.
Very cool.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the Georgia thing was Raphael Warnock, despite his victory. There's still voter suppression. So we got on the Secretary of State's website in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, I'm guessing you dealt with, but it's like we had a record number of early voters, mail-in ballots. Not only that, we had more people vote in the do-over than in the original. And you got this progressive idiot Democrat, there's still voter suppression. No, there wasn't. My goodness. There's Andy Humphrey.
Hey there.
How was the game Saturday?
It was fun for about an hour before it started, and then,
Yeah, long and miserable. Be like babysitting your 2-year-old nephew or something. Like, when is this going to end? So how long?
All right. That's an interesting analogy.
I do feel bad because I generally don't have cable, but I was watching the game at home with my son, who's taken an interest in basketball.
Pirating it off the
No,
internet?
I bought like a subscription for a month because I was like, oh, Drew's into basketball, we're gonna watch, and that was like one of his first. I don't want to out him. That was like one of his first experiences watching college basketball. It was not good.
So how long into the game before you're like, well, this is pretty boring?
Oh, it wasn't always boring, but it was over by a few minutes into the second half. Yeah, and then you knew. Just
hopes and dreams
exactly
on the floor.
Somebody on the show here said Friday, we said, and we may have gotten our feelings hurt. I got a little triggered because we were asking somebody on the show Friday what they thought about Mizzou's chances against KU, and they're like, they laughed. Who was that? Oh, it was you.
It was me.
But you were
Wait a minute, what?
Friday on the show, we said, do you like Mizzou's chances? And you just kind of like...
I paused. I don't know if I laughed or if I paused. You can check the tape.
By
Whatever
the way,
I did,
Brandon,
I don't know.
Did you play Stephanie the soundbite that we have of Andy from last week?
Oh, I have not done that yet.
I want to, but I do. I want to know what does Saturday say to you about the rest of the season? Because I think we started really strong. Everyone was like, "But our schedule, blah blah blah." So I have tickets in January. Am I going to be bored?
In January? Well, they have time to get better before then, but they have a tough schedule. Probably depends which game you got in January.
I don't honestly know.
So because their schedule is this is not the only tough game they have this month. Like this is the first of a stretch where they're going to have a lot tougher teams to deal with, and so it's going to be a lot different than the first 9 games.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look at Alabama. They beat the number 1 team in the country the other. It's a tough conference, man.
My kid fouled out on Saturday, which is, I think, the second game he's fouled out. So we're going to try to watch some more basketball to try to.
Nothing wrong with that. Stay aggressive. Yeah.
By the way, a couple of things Stephanie and I wanted to give you the heads up on that are coming down the pipe. I don't know if you get your property tax bills yet, but they are going up. And I don't care where you live in Missouri because of the cost of automobiles have gone up supply chain issues, what have you. And the other thing, I don't know if you've seen this. Anybody ever use Venmo? I've never used it. I've just...
Yes.
Why is everybody
Oh
laughing?
my gosh.
Because it's so common.
Has anyone ever used the Google?
You ever heard of this thing called Facebook? You put photos and you talk incessantly about yourself on there, and
Chris likes to call it the Book of Faces, but yes.
the Book of Faces, Venmo.
Yes.
You can find us on MySpace at Wake Up.
You can find me on Venmo, too.
Yeah.
So everybody uses this. Marsh, you use Venmo?
Oh,
Wow.
the legendary Marsh has even used Venmo.
Well, if you've made a transaction of at least $600 on Venmo,
I'm safe.
I think honestly,
Think I got that much money?
I mean, literally, my Venmo history is just me tipping musicians, asking them to play whatever song I want. Like, that's what I use it for. What else do people use this for? Do you like selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace? I think I've used it before. Is there other stuff like how? I mean, I guess maybe if you're a local, like a small business, you could take a lot of payments.
Like if everybody, if you go out on like a group dinner or something like that, and then one person picks it up and then the other's like, hey, just Venmo me their share of it.
I was going to say, I pay my car insurance every month to my mom on Venmo.
but don't we have like automatic payments and stuff already for insurance and things? Never mind. I'm the 51-year-old white guy of the bunch. So
I'm reimbursing my mom because I'm still on her plan. Yeah.
Okay.
So I pay for my own, but
Well, if any of those are above $600, you're gonna have to report it to the IRS. Okay, I have Andy's comments, Hannah, but they're not dry. It's in the I don't have them clipped dry. It's still,
okay.
Okay. So this is Andy from last week, Steph.
I think Brandon's voice sounds sexy.
Do we want to tell her the context of the story?
You told me this. You said you love when women are like kind of sick and have lower voices.
Oh, yeah, Mae West.
Apparently Andy likes it too.
No, it wasn't me.
Smelly cat.
I was just the messenger there.
Well, and Friday, so I was going to use that. So Andy said that during the show because Hannah's grandma texted during the show. And Andy was kind enough to read the text. And the text of Grandma's Hannah was...
Okay.
See, Steph, you know how sometimes Brandon is trying to get you to say something goofy into the microphone?
Yes.
When we're recording after the show, and sometimes I fill you in on the joke he's trying to pull.
No, she ruins it.
I'm totally oblivious. Brandon's tried to get me so many times, and Hannah's like, the mic is on. Stop talking.
That's basically what Brandon did to Andy.
And I would appreciate if you'd quit doing that, by the way.
It's fun.
So here's the other one that I was going to use on Friday.
Just leave me alone.
Tell him it's coming up 5 minutes from now. What's hot with Hannah? What do you have for us today, Hannah?
Do you know the comedian Fluffy? Are you cool enough to know who Fluffy is?
Gabriel Iglesias?
Yeah, whoa.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah, I know.
That was over my head. I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Well, it combines that and dogs, so Stephanie will love this story.
Dogs? Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:26.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
It's no secret that celebrities spend a lot of money on really stupid stuff. Gabriel Iglesias, of all people, might have just topped the list. Might have taken the cake.
Gabriel Iglesias, stand-up comedian. I think he's been in a movie or two. Did he get started like on the comedic American Idol kind of thing? I don't know if that's where he got his start, or maybe he was...
That I'm not sure. His nickname is Fluffy. You might know him as Fluffy. Yeah. But he threw a very expensive $100,000 party for his chihuahua named Risa. He gave her a quinceañera because she turned 15 and he felt like he needed to celebrate his very old chihuahua. And so he spent $100,000 on a very lavish party for her. And there were 3 looks for the evening that she had. And they're pink tutus for this dog that is so old it can't even keep its tongue in its own mouth. He pushed her around in a little stroller meant for a baby the whole night. It's bad.
I wonder if he has any kids and if they've ever had a $100,000 party.
He does not have any kids. That's part of why he decided to throw the party, was because he didn't have anybody else to throw a party for.
And in all the pictures, so the dog is obviously old, 15 years old, and can't even keep its tongue in its mouth anymore. And you're getting dressed up. I wonder how dogs what they're really thinking in a situation. Whether you put a sweater, oh, it's 30 degrees outside, I got to put a sweater on my dog, or you dress him up for Halloween, or you put Christmas decorations on him. I wonder, if dogs had opposable thumbs, would they be able, if they had 5 fingers, would they be able to give us the middle finger for dressing them up like human beings?
Probably. Now, we all know that I love dogs, but chihuahuas, I can't deal.
Oh, see, I
just
kind of like
can't.
chihuahuas. They're cute. You can carry them around in a little purse.
They're so mean. I have never met a chihuahua that was not just a jerk.
And it seems usually... a stereotype, don't be mad, but it's usually old women that have them as lap dogs and they keep them in the purse.
Are you calling me old?
Yeah, well, I could definitely see you with a chihuahua in your purse.
Right? A chihuahua's one step away from a cat in my mind. It's just...
Stephanie could have her Elle Woods moment.
Right?
Isn't that dog a chihuahua?
I think so. Do you know what we're talking about?
No. Legally Blonde.
Reese Witherspoon, she wears pink. She's a lawyer, and I think she does. I think you're right. I think she has a chihuahua.
Come on, man.
But again, no dogs for me, ever. Ever.
Just lizards.
By the way,
just lizards.
So next week, you 2 girls are gone, so that means we got to do Steph's list of things that suck for the holidays this week.
Yeah.
You up for it? All right, let's do it. We can do it Friday or Thursday. We can do it Wednesday or tomorrow. But for sure not today. Coming up a few minutes from now, what's happening with one of our local school districts? That story's coming up.
I believe that Mr. DeLeo would make an excellent president. However, I feel that electing the only cis white male on this board, president of this district, sends the wrong message.
That is School Board Treasurer Jennifer Solot saying, hey, this is Willow Grove. What a lovely name for a town, by the way. Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. What a lovely name. But I guess that's racist and cisphobic. Saying, I'm not going to vote on this guy. Saying he's qualified. He'd absolutely do a great job, but he's white. So I'm not going to vote for him. And he likes girls. He likes the opposite sex. Not going to vote for him. These things are still happening in schools. Because I know during COVID, obviously, a lot of attention. As more and more parents started to see what was happening, even in local schools. These things are all real. They're not talking points. They're really happening. And it's still happening. And I'm wondering, have parents, since COVID is over, whatever you want to call it, kids back in school, whatever it is, are parents, are they still paying attention to what's happening in schools? I sure hope so. One local school district, Columbia Public School Board, is voting today on an improvement plan for the district. And one of the things they are going to be facing, drops in attendance, teacher retention, and increase in behavioral issues, all on the increase since COVID-19. They have 90% of students back then attending classes 90% of the time. Now the students that are attending classes 90% of the time, it's only down to 67. Weren't there some people a couple years ago saying, hey, we think if you do this, number one, this is not that dangerous to kids. And I take everything. Stuff happens in life, and we got to take some risks. Quit pussyfooting around it. Just do it. And that's been my take on most of the COVID stuff. But wasn't there some people saying, hey, if you keep the kids out of school, aren't some of these things going to happen? And I think the answer was no, it wasn't. Yes, we know that, but we are planning now so that, in 2021 and 2022 and 2023, we don't have to deal with lowering test scores, poor attendance, more discipline issues. Wasn't there somebody saying that a couple years ago?
A lot of people.
I thought it was.
A lot of people. And I hope people are paying attention. For a lot of folks, this filing has opened for next spring's school board elections. I know some conservatives in mid-Mo made a run into school boards last couple cycles that weren't successful, but I hope we see some differing points of view.
So too, Andrea Lisenby and Adam Burks in the Columbia Public School District, two conservatives, and just super style. They weren't what a lot of people might say. Well, they were far right, which I've learned a lot of people, the progressives. If you're about the family nucleus, you're far right. You're crazy, far family nucleus. What the hell are you talking about? That's crazy talk. No, see, you gotta have the transphobe. And you gotta have all this stuff. It's just crazy. School board member locally, Suzette Waters, chatting with KOMU regarding their 5-year plan.
I think it shows a willingness to address our shortcomings head on, and that's why we're here, is for students to achieve. Address
shortcomings head on, which should have been done 2 or 3 years ago, when all of those shortcomings are now leaving people saying, oh my God, what do we do? Test scores are failing. There's more disciplinary issues. Kids aren't coming to school as much. If they were doing that, they would have done that then. They're not doing it now. And to Suzette Waters' credit, she was not on the school board back then. She won election about a year ago or so. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is back.
Yay.
John Marr, we all are saying
I'm so glad you're back.
Yeah.
I'm glad too.
Glad you're back. That's producer Hannah.
Good morning.
John Marsh is here.
I did.
See that.
I did.
My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. 874-9390. I also want to mention, I'll start here because we have had several texts over the past couple of weeks on our text, 874-9390. Folks saying, hey, can you, apparently there's a missing 15-year-old kid from Ashland. Her name is Emily Dubes. So we had several notifications here at the station. I reached out to the police chief in Ashland and said, hey, what's going on with this? And I'll read you the response so that I don't get it wrong, so that I am being exact with what's happening here, because we got several about this. Gabe Edwards said, The juvenile was reported to Ashland Police Department as a runaway, not a missing person, which is a status offense. They've not received verifiable intel that the juvenile is in danger or that any foul play has or is occurring. Now, that was from last week. That was from Thursday with the Ashland police chief. So I don't know what's going on there. And I would think even if it is bona fide runaway, I would think as a parent, I don't care if my kids, they're not there.
Yeah.
If they're not there, even if it was by choice, would still want something on that.
Well, we've got 2 missing teens in Owensville, but an update, one of them has been found. It was reported by the Gasconade County Sheriff's Office that Jersey Reynolds, age 17, and Brooklyn Reynolds, age 14, were headed to a family member's house and hadn't been seen. I think I saw that story yesterday, but as of this morning, they say Brooklyn, who is the younger one, was located and has been reunited with her family. However, Jersey Reynolds, 17, still outstanding.
So I think some folks are freaking out. So you've got this in Owensville. And by the way, the town that girl was, that one of the girls this morning from Owensville has been found in is like 5-10 miles from Owensville. And Owensville, just a little over an hour drive from Ashland. So I think you got some folks that kind of look around and go, hey, this is happening awfully close to home. 874-9390. Brad, welcome into the show. What is on your mind?
Hey, Brandon, this is Brad. I was calling about something you were just talking about.
Yes.
I have a guy that I like to listen to who has a program called Wall Builders. His name is David Barton. And they were talking about the elections and how they were sort of disappointing in November. But he said part of the good news is that school boards all over the country became more conservative. And he said there were at least 100 school boards that flipped from liberal to conservative, mostly about whether it's CRT or just sexual issues. And that was good news for me, so I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you, and I had actually heard that, too. In the midterms, obviously, a lot of folks paying attention to the national elections, the R versus Ds and the red wave, which, of course, did not materialize. But I did see that story, the number of school boards across the nation that did go more conservative. Brad, thank you for checking in, and thanks for reminding me of that story.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
All right, man, you have a great day. We appreciate you listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and I wonder some of the other things that happen in schools that we don't even know about, especially in grade schools. You got a bunch of young kids, impressionable kids, and they're guided by adults all day, and I don't know what's going to happen. I was chatting with somebody the other day, apparently at one of the local schools, those the Apple Air thing, which blows me away that you could do this, but like if you have the Apple Air, you just drop photos onto unsuspecting people if they also have, and apparently heard more than once, like pictures that are getting dropped at schools on these airphones. I don't know what an administration does about that. I don't know what mom and dad does about that. Do they say, well, you're not taking your iPhone to school. We're going to put you on the Droid platform so you can't do that. I love this, and I don't know why. But anytime an alleged criminal gets caught, I smile, and sometimes I pump my fist. Especially is that mean?
No.
Especially when it comes to porch pirates.
Oh, yes.
Columbia police have arrested a couple of porch pirates over the weekend. What a name. That's kind of a lofty nickname, isn't it? It sounds almost swashbuckling and noble. Look what I did. I went onto somebody's front porch when they weren't home, and I picked up this box that didn't belong to me, and I stole it. I'm a pirate. Arr.
They should make them...
Porch pirate extraordinaire.
One of our listeners is very good with with graphic design. We should get their mugshots and and superimpose an eye patch and a cool hat on them.
I actually have a porch pirate story, kind of, sort of.
Oh, no.
We're listening.
So I ordered save the dates for our wedding, right? I designed them online, ordered them, spent a decent chunk of change on them, and it wasn't until I got the shipping notification that I realized I had them shipped to my old apartment in Jefferson City. And, of course, I now live in California. And after it ships, there's nothing you can do to correct the address, right? So I had to send my poor fiance to our old apartment to see if he could steal the package off the porch of
Really?
whoever lives in that apartment now. Yeah, it's this bright orange box. And he said when he got there, thank goodness it was sitting on the front step, but that there were people outside in the apartments next to it, and they were definitely looking at him really funny. So
terrible.
He was worried that he was going to be accused of
for sure
stealing someone's package.
But technically, it was yours. I have like the opposite story. When I was out of town, I had a package that was misdelivered across the street and down a ways, and the person found my phone number and they called me and they said, "Hey, just checking, but like, were you expecting a package? It showed up at my house." And I said, "Yeah, I'm out of town." They're like, "No problem. We'll send it down. We'll take it and set it on your porch for you." That's small town America. It was so nice.
I love that.
Somebody did steal my DoorDash order one time off my porch.
Really?
That's brutal.
I was so sad. I was so sad, and the restaurant I had ordered from had closed in the amount of time that I placed the first order, so I couldn't reorder my food. It was just not a good night.
That's the worst. Like when you open the fridge and you're like, "Oh, I've been craving that leftover Chinese food or that pizza," and then I look at Chris and I'm like, "Did you eat that?" Like, oh, you're so disappointed when you realize someone else ate it.
Well, and the other thing that sucks too is I know at least like in Boone County, in Columbia Police, and I don't know how some of our other sheriffs and other law enforcement agencies are doing, but as far as I know, just about everybody is shorthanded right now. So can you imagine your little whatever the hot toy of the year is? Does anybody know what the hot toy of the year is this year for toys? No. Whatever the hot toy of the year is.
That's on me, sorry, but I don't like toys.
Add
I
that
should
to
know.
The list
I
of
should
Stephanie's
know,
list
but-
of things that suck. But I wonder. I forgot where I was going.
You wonder about how you were talking about hot toys being delivered to people's porches and then people fighting over them, and like the police. I think you're right.
Police
though.
shorthanded.
Yeah.
So then you call the police. You're calling 911 or 311 and saying, "Hey, somebody stole my Chatty Cathy doll off the front porch or whatever."
Tickle me Elmo.
Tickle me Elmo, and they're like, "Hey, I got a Nintendo Switch," and the police, they're shorthanded. And why? Because of the progressive media, because of progressives and all these people who are saying defund the police, and the people that needlessly hate on cops, which we see especially in the city of Columbia. We have a large group of people hate on cops. And then they wonder, why do we have shortages and stuff? Do we have the number one selling toy of the year we could do like in 5 minutes from now?
Yeah, I'm Googling and it's bad.
All right, good. That's coming up. The Bat Toy.
Do we have it? We.
Yeah.
We succeed as
Did
a
you just
show.
ask me to Google something for you? You're in trouble.
Is this pirate music? Does this count? Porch Pirates busted by Columbia Police. And I don't know why.
Doll? Oh, no. Chatty Cathy asked first. Sure, because a dog can talk or something. Please brush my hair.
Chatty Cathy. One time back in the 50s and 60s, the biggest selling toy worldwide. Chatty Cathy. And over the years, we've seen Tickle Me Elmo, and then the Star Wars figures in the late 70s, and I don't know. I have no idea because I would think, John, like today it's all electronics. If a kid is writing a letter to Santa and saying, hey, dear Santa, I'm thinking they're asking for video games and iPhones and stuff like that. I don't know. Are they playing with toys anymore? Yeah.
Same. That's what I was going to... Yes.
Squishmallows?
It's at the top of the list. And literally, we were at a basketball game. Eden pulls one out of her bag, and her grandma's like, what is that? It looks like a bloated stuffed animal. like what a rugby ball is to a football. Just like kind of overinflated.
You can tell what they wanted to do, but they missed the mark.
And her grandma was like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know, these stupid things that keep popping up everywhere. And this other mom turns around and kind of gives me this knowing look like, what? Yes, these are like the new LOL dolls, which are also on the list and are the worst toys ever. Yeah, not cool. I am not down with the Squishmallows, although I do think they're kind of cheap, so they might be, a good, but yeah, they're just big and annoying. They're kind of like little pillow pets. Was that a thing at one point?
Oh man, I loved pillow pets.
Right?
I had a bunch of those.
So that's on the list. I do see a lot of Switch stuff. Smartwatches are the other electronic that I think they've started to make them more for kids. There's a lot of, what are these car things, like these Hot Wheel, the other thing that really suck, these Hot Wheel tracks that take up half of your living room. Those are on the list.
Those are back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
We have tons of them.
Did those ever really go away?
I don't know.
I don't think so. But the Squishmallow, what is that?
I think this is a commercial for Squishmallows.
Hello, the Squishmallows.
No.
Grab a friend, we're taking it easy. So soft, cuddle and squeeze.
No.
So soft, cuddly, and squeezy.
Well, the thing about Squishmallows is it's not just one brand, right?
Oh.
It's a type of product, I guess. So there's tons of them. They come in all shapes and sizes, every animal you can think of. They're kind of cute, I think.
This other thing that's freaking me out that's on the list is apparently...
It's squishy. It's a stress reliever for kids. Like we have those squishy balls?
Kind of.
Oh,
It's a stress reliever for kids. And I bet they need it after what's happened in our public schools over the past several years.
One of the number one new releases, I can't even believe this, on Amazon's list is the Cutie Reveal Snowflake Sparkle Series. It's a Barbie thing. And you basically turn your Barbie into a furry, like into a mascot. It is like a mascot head and a furry suit for your Barbie. It comes in a polar bear, an owl, a deer, or a husky, and she comes with other accessories. This is really weird.
And it comes with its own litter box, too, apparently.
Oh, don't start that again, please.
Awful. But like that is weird. Right?
So you buy a Barbie doll, which I don't know what a Barbie goes for anymore.
But they're cheap.
Cheap?
Yeah, real cheap.
You buy this Barbie and then you cover it up with something else?
With a mascot, furry bear costume.
Hey, coming up, 8:10. I don't know if you've seen this. So everybody's reacted to the release of Brittany Griner's sports figures, Politico's talking heads. What is Russia's reaction? I want you to hear this is coming up at 8:10 and why a new congressman was denied an apartment in Washington, D.C.
He was sentenced to 25 years. He served 11 to 16 years. I can't remember the exact number. But in actuality, his weapons might have been used to kill Americans, but he has not killed Americans.
Congresswoman Jackson out of Texas. Come on, then he's talking about the Brittany Griner, Victor Bout swap. The guy, remember, his nickname was the Merchant of Death. We've got Paul Whelan, a retired Marine, sitting in Russia for over 4 years now, and they bring an WNBA player home. Now, here's what the administration is saying. Maybe there's some truth to it, but they're saying, listen, they never even put this Paul Whelan on the table. We had to get somebody. Maybe there is some truth to that. But you have these people like Congresswoman Lee saying, well, come on, guy wasn't that bad. This Victor Bout, the Merchant of Death, who we traded for a WNBA player, he wasn't that bad. He didn't kill any Americans or anything. And I play that not just because it's so shockingly stupid, but to give you some. That is undoubtedly through and through the mindset woven through the brain of these progressives, these far left progressives. Well, this guy, he didn't kill any Americans, so it can't be that bad. Meanwhile, the best part of all of this has been the reaction from Russia over the weekend. Now, Stephanie and I have been since day one. Since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021, what have we said about our presence on a worldwide stage?
It's not been good.
No, it's not good. And that was one of the first things that made us nervous. And we've seen it over and over again. These aren't just some we're just talking about, poke fun at the guy. We want the president to do well. We want the country to do well. Unfortunately, that's not what is happening. But every time they go on a worldwide stage, man, we just lose this luster that is the United States of America. We lose it. He goes somewhere and licks on an ice cream cone and says, oh, I got better things to do than go see the invasion at the southern border. That's what he does. And these people are thinking just like, well, he didn't kill anybody. So on the worldwide stage, we look bad. Russian state TV, they're laughing at us. And they brought up something really interesting. They said, Americans consider this Paul Whelan, the guy who is still there, consider him a hero. Here's his problem. This is Russian state TV. Well, he's white, he's a cisgender, and he's a dude. And, I hate to say it, but when you hear comments like Congresswoman Ms. Lee just made, and the stupidity from that far side of the aisle, you go, yeah, this all... It really does make sense. No, we got to get the black lesbian girl instead of the white cisgender guy. Administration says Paul Whelan, though, never on the table. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is back.
Good morning.
By the way, congratulations. John cursed me. We've missed a marketing opportunity here over the years at the radio station.
Isn't that what we're all about?
Right, and we missed it. So for the years we've known Stephanie Bell, she's an attorney with Ellinger and Associates, and they enjoy even actually some worldwide acclaim, national acclaim. As a matter of fact, Mark Ellinger he got awarded a pretty prestigious award.
Yeah, 2022 Republican National Lawyers Association Lawyer of the Year.
For the entire country.
For the entire country.
Pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. Real impressive. So Mark Ellinger and Associates, and now they're putting another name up there on the sign, Ellinger and
Ellinger Bell.
Ellinger Bell.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So here's the. By the way, big round of applause.
Thank you.
Much deserved. But we've missed an opportunity here on the show over the years because it's always, hey, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and his producer Hannah and John Marsh and Brian Houseworth and Stephanie Bell.
Is this one of those ways that you can spin someone else's accomplishments to make it about you?
No, it's not about me at all.
But you want a law firm name?
No, it should have been Wake Up Mid-Missouri with producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth, and associate. We've never called you an associate on the show.
Right.
Yeah, we should have been. Producer Hannah is here.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh, how was your weekend? And how was the party? Very nice. Yesterday, Chiefs and Broncos.
Intercepted. Picked up by Willie Gay. And Gay is going to take it all the way. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Now, if I walked away from that game after the first half, I want to bring in Lindsay from the food bank. This is who we do our big food drive every year, the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. It's the 93.9, the Eagle, KWOS, Commerce Bank, 1-for-1 holiday food drive. This is coming up 2 days from now. And Lindsay Lopez, who is the executive director there, Lindsay Young Lopez. If I were to ask you, you watched the first half of the Chiefs game, what would you have thought after the first half?
I thought it was, in the bag.
Yeah. And then after you watched the whole game, what's your synopsis of the game now?
Just thank goodness they won.
Marsh, is that pretty accurate? Yeah, it feels pretty accurate. Chiefs tearing it up. Patrick Mahomes, 350 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, unfortunately 3 interceptions. Still cruising in the AFC West, but as far as the AFC, the home field advantage throughout the playoffs now, right now, still belongs with Buffalo because of the record and the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. Let's go, Chiefs. Let's go. Wake Up Mid-Missouri, something we've been doing for a lot of years now. It's our annual 1-for-1 holiday food drive with Commerce Bank. This is benefiting the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. It's coming up on Wednesday. And our guest hanging out with us now to talk about it and the importance of this and how you can get involved. Lindsay Young Lopez, President and CEO. What do we need to know this year?
Well, we need the help more than we've ever needed it before. That's just the honest truth. The last few years have been hard for everyone, and this year in particular, we're serving 15,000 more people each month than we were compared with last year.
So month over month, 15,000 people more this month of December compared to last December.
Correct. Staggering numbers.
Wow.
Really telling about what we're seeing currently.
So, like, for example, I'm doing this to make it real. I don't want to get political here, but a real life consequence of what's happening is 15,000 people more per month now that are needing help. From the food bank.
Yeah, and certainly we never make it political either. We're just reporting the facts. 15,000 more people per month. And you can draw conclusions. That there's economic uncertainty and gas prices are higher, and so that drives up the need.
And that's why I'm trying to stay away from the politics. But you see, these are real life consequences, and that's why we ask for people to help, because a lot of these folks, a lot of times it's through no doings of their own. By the way, this what they do here is not just handing out food every day. It's food and some help, a hand up, I think is the phrase. So our event gets underway Wednesday. How can we help on Wednesday?
So on Wednesday, you can come out to Columbia Mall in Columbia. You can come out to Orchland, now Buckheit in Jefferson City. Stop by between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Drop off a contribution of food, drop off a contribution of funds, and just help us to help those in need in this community.
Also, every year, man, the Columbia Professional Firefighters, they've been helping us out inside Columbia Magazine. And for years, it was always, canned goods, dry box goods, rice, pasta, what have you. But now it really is all about the cash.
It really is. The food bank, because of the resources we have, we can do so much more with the monetary contributions. For every $1 that we take in, it helps us to provide the equivalent of at least 4 meals to people in need. So we can stretch those resources a long, long way.
So, and it's and we take the food too. We do. As a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
We have a trailer set up out there, whether you're at Orchlands in Jeff City, the mall in Columbia, we have the big trailer, and big brouhaha. We have the semi to load the food up on, but it really is like even just a simple $25 donation is huge.
It goes a long way, and speaking to the fact that we're serving more people, it's costing us more to serve more people too. So we're spending 3 times more to purchase food than we did pre-COVID. Our transportation costs are 2 to 3 times higher than they were previously too.
And I'm glad you said that, because again, we're not trying to get political, but we see. So you can hear on the news, for example, as the director of the food bank, I can hear on the news, okay, this is happening, supply chain issues, fuel prices, the economy. This stuff is real for you guys, because then a couple of months later, you start seeing it's like this is a tangible piece of evidence this is what happens when this is what's happening.
That's exactly right. So as a consumer, you walk into the grocery store, you walk into a retailer, you're seeing certain things that you're accustomed to purchasing that just aren't there. We are experiencing that on a much, much larger scale. The lead time to purchase things is much longer. Truckloads that we are purchasing are getting diverted to retailers who need them. I mean, it's really kind of wild out there right now.
So you're saying there's foods that are supposed to be going to charities like the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri, but then you get a Walton family member saying, hey, we need that progressive soup over here at the Walmart. Can you bring it here instead?
It's just a little bit of the wild, wild west out there right now. And I'm not calling out any retailers at all. And especially, Walmart has a distribution center in Moberly that provides us with lots and lots of food. I think everyone is tightening up just their inefficiencies as well. So it's just kind of the perfect storm for everybody right now. And again, I can't stress enough, we're hoping that things turn around at some point.
And if they don't, that's why Wednesday, join us at Orscheln's in Jefferson City or the mall. There's going to be other ways you can make cash donations. Lindsay Young Lopez, President and CEO of the Food Bank, coming up this Wednesday. It's happening this Wednesday. The Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. We're doing our annual Commerce Bank 1-for-1 holiday food drive. Inside Columbia Magazine, professional firefighters, $25. You donate $25, that's 100 meals. Lindsay joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking. During COVID, we had to suspend our volunteer workforce. Volunteers are just golden to us. In effect, volunteers double our workforce. Cost savings to us in a typical year is about $2.7 million. So we had to suspend that volunteer workforce. We welcome them back. People aren't returning at the same kind of rates as pre-COVID. So it's times like this where we can put the word out. We've got wonderful volunteer opportunities that people can do, team building for corporate purposes, just with family too. So we encourage people to reach out, and we've got lots of great ways to help.
And if somebody does want to help, maybe they're and hopefully they're going to take part in the food drive coming up on Wednesday. $25 provides 100 meals. But if folks want a team building work stuff, want to volunteer, what's the best way somebody get in touch with you?
Best way to find out anything about the food bank, either if you want to help us in some capacity or if you need help with securing food, go to our website. That's sharefoodbringhope.org.
Sharefoodbringhope.org. Lindsay Young Lopez. Anything else that you would like to add before we let you go?
Just this is one of our favorite days of the year. We're so grateful to all of the Zimmer stations and other sponsors, and for anybody who can help us this year. We can take those resources, and there will be so many people who will receive them that will be really grateful.
They'll get to do the simple thing of sitting down and having a meal. $25 donation, 100 meals. You don't even have to donate $25, whatever you can Wednesday. Lindsay, thank you so much. Our guest this morning, Lindsay Young Lopez from the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri, talking about our big thing coming up on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, coming up 5 minutes from now, Morning Bell Business News. A little twist only Stephanie Bell has. What do you got for us, Steph?
I recently heard this from a Boone County elected representative, which I thought was
Good morning. It's 8:26. Time for the Morning Bell Business News. Little twist. Only Stephanie Bell can get you.
It is going to be a busy week. The stock futures right now are up, but we were going to get a lot of news that has sent the stock market in different directions depending on the day. So we will have the Fed's going to announce another rate hike Wednesday. We'll get CPI information this week on inflation. And again, sometimes when the CPI comes down, the market likes it, sometimes not. So it's going to be a busy week. And also, so someone said this at a meeting and they said, hey, you need to, be involved, get involved. You need a seat at the table because if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And I loved that.
I like it.
And someone is going to be on the menu tomorrow in Congress. So Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF with his FTX disaster has, Congress is in on it now. Apparently, they sent him a subpoena, said, give us all your stuff. He actually on Twitter has said, I'd be open to testifying, but he said, I don't have access to any of my data. None of my personal, where's your data, bro? I don't know. So he's saying, I might not be able to answer all the questions, which I think is just hedging. And whether or not he will actually testify tomorrow is still up in the air. But Congress will be holding a hearing on FTX. And I think it'll spark a larger discussion about crypto in general, which I still don't fully understand and have a lot of questions about. So I might tune in for this one, actually.
Well, it's like me. Like with crypto, I have no interest, probably mostly because I have cash and a debit card and a credit card.
But do you have a Venmo?
I don't have a Venmo account. So I have that stuff. But yeah, I don't understand the crypto. Me and my friend Stuart, we went to lunch at a chain restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and we got talking about crypto, and we're talking about how it's crap, apparently. I don't know. People are making money off, but nobody's really using it, and the few people that are using it, from what I understand, they're using it for seedy purposes.
Okay.
That's apparently one of the things I've learned. I'm not saying everybody does it. Just my understanding.
People also use cash for seedy purposes.
That's true. So we asked the manager at this steakhouse down on 63, like, hey, can I pay with Bitcoin? And the guy said, no. So we started asking him, well, then what good is Bitcoin for? He's, I don't know. I'm just trying to sell steaks, dude.
We're going to have to get an expert on the show to explain crypto to us. Also, some sad news in Jefferson City. I had heard this rumor for a couple weeks, but it is confirmed. Dick's Sporting Goods is going to close. It's been there for about 10 years. Also, sad news, they're not going to have a big going out of business sale. So if you're hoping to get your Lulu, or do they even sell Lulu? I don't know, your Under Armour for on sale at Dick's, they said no, because obviously they've got one here in Columbia, and they got one at the lake. They're just going to move their inventory elsewhere. So it will close at the end of the year.
And that's the Morning Bell Business News. A little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you coming up 5 minutes from now. New member of Congress, freshman, goes D.C. to get an apartment. He gets turned down. How come? We have this story coming up 5 minutes from now.
And one of the big complaints I hear from conservatives, from Republicans, is Democrats just don't. Do you agree with that sentiment? And do you agree with that sentiment? And do you think there is an actual path forward there? Democrats are still going to have the majority in the next Senate. You can still. And do you think there is?
Who was born and raised near
Of the Senate, if you want.
Well, as a native Arizonan who was born and raised near the southern.
With that sentiment?
Well, as a native Arizona.
To suppress the story.
I look forward to our conversation about our commitment to impartiality, to transparency, and to accountability. If it's okay with all of you, I'd like to read you something I personally wrote as I thought about these issues. And I'm also going to tweet it out right now. I want to start by making something very clear. We don't consider political viewpoints, perspectives, or party affiliation in any of our policies or enforcement decisions. Period. Impartiality is our guiding principle.
Well, that's not what an investigation by Bari Weiss and Matt Taibbi is saying. That is Twitter former head of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, 2 years ago, November, Congress show, hey, we don't show favoritism. We don't show that. Well, now apparently there is a bevy of documents that are saying, oh, yeah, not only were employees at Twitter working with Democrats were in touch. So apparently, and I'm kind of simplifying it, but Democrats could call Twitter and say, hey, man, there's a story. Can you kind of knock this down? But basically changing the algorithm so some stories would get more coverage, some stories would get less. And guess what we're finding, according to these results from these Twitter files, is that, yes, Twitter was absolutely coming down on conservatives, especially blocking content, affecting how the algorithms and everything would run. So even though if you've got a viewpoint that might be accurate, if it didn't agree with what a far-left Democrat said, it was getting the kibosh, and this includes the New York Post story on the detailings of Hunter Biden's laptop that showed he potentially was using his name, that they were using the Biden name for political and financial gain. Remember, that was the big story that Twitter said, this is not factual, and it was very, very factual. So according to these documents from Taibbi and Weiss, apparently this stuff was going on, but Democrats could call Twitter and say, hey, can you fix this for
Are
me?
we expecting more documents? Like, they keep dropping in like little tranches every couple of days, and I think they've gotten more serious because what people initially, Democrats, they kind of fell into a trap because they saw the first stuff and they're like, oh, they were just communicating with the Biden campaign. That's not the government. Nothing to see here. And then Taibbi's like, oh, I got some more for you. And
hold my beer.
And I think the ones he just dropped, I think last Thursday, it does show that there were it shows Twitter employees talking about meetings with actual government entities, and that is concerning. And so I wonder if there's still more to come.
And by the way, in Twitter, they can block whatever they want. They don't have to give you or me, they don't have to give us freedom of speech. They are not a government entity. They don't have to do that. They can block stuff. They can change those algorithms to however they want. Doesn't matter. Not a government entity, but when you lie about it and when you're in effect, you're a campaign arm for one party, especially the sucky party. When it's not my party, then it's a problem. If you were doing it for my party, maybe not such a big problem. So apparently, and again, this goes back to, haven't there been some people saying that for a while now, that Twitter, and this morning is a true story, and I think about this all the time, not just with Twitter, but like with a lot of big tech. This morning, I was looking for the latest, because here's a name I hadn't heard for a while, and I was wanting to get an update on, Paul Pelosi. Hey, everybody got excited about that for about a week or so. What's going on there? Has any more come out about the mysterious circumstances in which you open the door and all that? And maybe there's not, but what's the truth? And I typed in Paul Pelosi, latest Paul Pelosi, and up pops on the Google thing, up pops a recipe. Did you mean the recipe for pickled banana holiday bread? No, I meant what happened with Paul Pelosi's case. I don't want to know anything about pickled banana bread for the holidays. And it could just be me, but I swear to God, that stuff happens a lot where I'm searching for something.
How good was your spelling in what you were trying to search?
That is a very valid question.
That is a fair question, because there is something to that. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell is back, by the way, in case you missed the good news. We are celebrating her personally. She got Mark Ellinger and Associates says they put a shingle with Stephanie's name out front. Is it out there yet on The Office?
No. It's official as of January 1, and so the firm will be renamed from Ellinger and Associates to Ellinger Bell. And yes, we are in the process of updating a lot of things. It's kind of a pain. Not gonna
We're
lie.
excited for
Thank you.
Not surprised, but super excited. There's Mr. John Marsh. Highlight of your weekend? Yep. Hannah, how is that? Chiefs victory. We'll take it, man. We'll take it. Hannah, what about you? Best part of your weekend?
I got to have dinner with some family on Saturday night, and I got to catch up on some sleep this weekend.
I was working all weekend, basically.
Same.
Watching TV, trying to find out stuff. So I was trying to...
That's not what you told me earlier.
What did I say earlier?
You said that you slept on the couch all weekend.
I did nothing but lay down and not talk to people and rested. But when I wasn't doing that...
Oh, okay.
was watching TV trying to see what people like MSNBC and CNN and ABC and CBS were saying about these Twitter files. This is on the TV. Just nothing from nowhere. Nobody talking about the Twitter files. So
There's people listening in their cars right now that are very upset with you.
For what?
They think that their signal's like going out or something.
I think.
But they're going, it sounds way better.
And I think you just needed to adjust your rabbit ears, and then maybe you could have gotten something.
Come on, dang it, I can't get this.
Adjust what?
Rabbit ears. Antennas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Old people stuff?
Stuff that kids wouldn't understand. Yeah, it's old
Yeah.
people stuff. So anyhow, nobody else is talking about it, but I did catch this. This has got to be kind of embarrassing. Stephanie actually covered this in the Morning Bell. Well, it's been over a month now following the midterms, November the 8th. Talked about first ever. I can't remember was it a Gen Z, first member of Generation Z?
I think that's right.
To be elected to Congress. His name is Maxwell Frost, and he was elected to represent Florida's 10th congressional district. So we know a couple of weeks ago, incoming 4th congressional district Congressman Mark Halford was here talking about the orientation process and all that. And so this kid, Maxwell Frost, he's going through it too. And one of the things you do, well, if I'm going to be working here now, I guess I'm also going to be living here now. Goes out to get an apartment. Didn't get it.
And then boo-hoos on Twitter about it.
How come he didn't get it?
Because he quit his job to run for Congress, and he said, well, it cost me a lot of money and I racked up a lot of debt. You know what? Guess what? If I quit my job today, decided I wasn't going to work for a year, and it affected my credit such that then when I went to apply for an apartment, I didn't get it. Yeah, exactly. That sounded like a boo-hoo. Right? I wouldn't be whining about it on Twitter.
That sounded like a cat dying or a door that needs some WD-40 on its hinges.
John, are you okay over there?
Oh, never mind.
But most people...
Man, it stinks.
Most people don't have the luxury to just quit their job and go do whatever they want for a year or more and then expect the same things. And I would also say, not only does this mean that he is, makes poor financial decisions, I would say, but also a lot of times if you're young, you can get a cosigner, like a guarantor on your lease to qualify if your credit is bad. And I think for one of my first apartments, I didn't have, not that I had bad credit, although I made some shopping mistakes. I had too many shopping credit cards when I was young, as we all do. But he doesn't have one other person in his life who is legitimate and can't co-sign for him. I would think so anyway, I think this is all a stunt on his behalf, because he's like his Twitter's like, Congress is only for people with money already. Look at me, I can't even get an apartment. And it's all a publicity stunt.
Well, and aside from credit scores, any apartment that I've lived in, you have to submit pay stubs to prove that you can, afford your rent every month.
Usually it's both, because not only do you have to show that you have enough income going forward to pay your rent, which is what he would be able to show with his congressional pay, I assume, but you also have to show that you're not an idiot with the money that you make and have a bad credit score. And I will say, not everyone who has a bad credit score is an idiot, but it is sometimes a predictor of poor financial decision making. And also there are really not, if you do have, a lot of people get into credit issues, I will say, for medical expenses, and that is a common thing, and it's sad and it's unfortunate. Prices of healthcare, we can go there another day, but if you do have a bad credit score and it got there kind of legitimately, you had a real issue, there are services out there that can help you rehabilitate your credit score.
It's called rehab. Go to rehab.
No, not that kind of rehab. But so, I mean, again, I think there are a lot of solutions for this, and he wanted this to happen so he could get out there and be like, look at me, I'm poor and housing and ugh.
He said, I just applied to an apartment in D.C. where I was told, the guy told me my credit was really bad. So his credit was so bad he could not get an apartment in Washington, D.C. And kind of to Stephanie's point, one of our texters, 874-9390, that freshman dude, just like AOC.
Yep.
He comes to town, no credit. And did his credit, and that's what I want, a bad credit, is this just in the year running up to the election, or were there some other things going on before that? I don't know, but it's just a question that popped into my head. He comes to town broke with no credit, cannot afford an apartment, and then cries about the man keeping him down. Then the libtards come out and give him money, and soon he is fleshed out.
And I want to know, how much was this apartment rent that he like trying to get like some $2,000 a month luxury apartment? I'm sure it was. And I would survey the number of folks who are like Missouri House members, Missouri Senate members, who find like a family member that lives in mid-Missouri and just lives in their basement for like a couple $100, or finds a friend that can take them in, because they can't, our Missouri elected representatives can't afford a second mortgage when they're in town, or a second apartment payment. And they do something that's smart because, hey, the smart choice is, hey, maybe I have a friend that I could stay with for cheaper. And maybe, I don't need a luxury apartment. And maybe I don't need to get on social media and whine about this. Conservatives care about money. They make smart decisions, I feel like. And we could go poll our people in our state house of people who have not applied for a luxury apartment in Jeff City.
Median rent in D.C. is $2,600 according to online real estate marketplace Zillow. I don't know what the median rent is in mid-Missouri. I do know we, in relation to affordable housing in Jefferson City, we were looking at some properties in Jefferson City earlier this morning here on the show, and we were seeing places $500 to $600 a month, which I'm like, that's pretty affordable.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's not my $185 a month Kirksville rent that I paid in college, but.
All right, coming up a few minutes from now, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we're going to be doing some leftovers. A couple of things that we didn't get a chance to get to on the show today. We're going to cover that 5
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, leftovers here on the show. Some of the things we didn't get to get into the show today because of time constraints. And today, leftovers, we find Rick in the refrigerator holding a dish of leftovers. Rick, welcome into the show. What do you have for us?
Well, you know, this Keystone Pipeline, which Joe Biden shut down, made it non-existent, suddenly had a big oil spill.
Over in Kansas.
Spill.
Yeah.
The big oil spill, which is in southern or northern Kansas, is suspected because the federal government allowed those companies to raise the pressure to above safe levels so that they could move more oil. And furthermore, they're still digging trenches, welding pipe together, and making this pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not doing it with federal money. Everybody lied to us about this. Absolute lies. Nobody's going to tell us the truth anymore.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And you didn't see that on TV this weekend.
I did see very little of it, but yeah, this is in Washington, Kansas. Rick, thank you for the phone call. So if you're in Kansas City, basically you go a little north, 3 hours to the west, you'll run into a town called Washington, Kansas. About 14,000 barrels of crude. It's about more than 500,000 gallons of crude oil over the weekend. But you're right, and here's the thing, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but because of the lies we get from the administration, like the border is secure and things like that, their reputation precedes them. And it's fair to ask questions like that. Okay, what do you got, Stephanie? You got anything in your refrigerator today for leftovers? Not really.
No.
I think we got it all.
No, we for sure
here's
did not.
What we didn't get. This was interesting. State Representative Michael Davis filed legislation seeking to reproach U.S. Senator Roy Blunt because he didn't like the way he voted on everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the trying to dunk on Senator
I
Blunt
don't know.
as
We
he's
got
leaving?
some cranky folks last week, and I get it. People like Roy Blunt. They don't like him, and they criticize us every time he's on the show. Why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask you that? Well, if you're laying asphalt on the road and I'm coming to your job, I am in no way going to try to pretend like I know how to do your job or what it is that you have to do, and that's kind of, why didn't you ask him this? Well, see, we only get X amount of time, and why didn't you press him on this? Well, because that vote was 2 years ago, and I get it, and I respect that. You don't like Roy Blunt, that's fine. But Scott Fawn from Missouri Times, he was on here and talking about Roy Blunt's final floor speech. And I don't know. So the guy's career is done. So what is the point of filing legislation to reproach, which basically is bad, Roy? We didn't like how you voted. I don't know what the purpose of that is.
You get elected to go do something good for your constituents, and this is all you got. This is your priority. What on earth?
Yeah, it's just. And here's the thing. This is. Passing shots. Like there's in my mind. There's just no need to do this. I guess maybe if you were still in office, do something then. But to do it now. I don't know. Because, people say, well, you got to be tougher on this, you got to do this. And those people have never served as a legislator in Washington, D.C., nor have I.
No.
So I don't know what it's like.
Senator Blunt will be speaking to SEMO graduates this weekend, actually. He'll be in town offering advice to the youths.
That's where I dropped out of school, Southeast Missouri State. Marsh, anything in your fridge? Nice. Well, how about that? Something's wrong then. We can never, ever do everything on the show again because then we run out of stuff for leftovers. That's it. Gary Nolan's show is coming up just minutes from now. And do want to remind you, coming up Wednesday, it's a 93.9, the Eagle 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS, Commerce Bank 141 Holiday Food Drive. This benefits the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri, covers 32 counties, over 100,000 people doing this with Inside Columbia Magazine, professional firefighters. And we're going to be collecting donations. Equipment Share is helping us out. Missouri Pork Association, Don Nicodem and those folks, they're helping us out too. That is coming up on Wednesday. You can come to Orscheln in Jeff City. You can come to the mall in Columbia. You can drop off food, cash donations We'll be best. Nolan's next. See ya.
Bye.